Welcome to Leveraging Your Reality, where mindset meets movement. I'm Siobhan Terrell Camper, your realignment coach and partner in growth. This channel is for leaders, parents, and people who want to stop surviving and start showing up as a healthier version of themselves in all the different parts of life. If you are ready to begin your alignment by truth and elevating, you're in the right place. I want to talk about a topic that is real, especially for the end of the year. We are coming into the season of overcommitment and overwhelmed. As we wrap up the end of this year, people are getting into the reality of what they didn't do or couldn't accomplish. And they're also going to try to speed things up to get it all done while also knowing that holiday season is upon us. And naturally, that season tends to bring a lot of stress and overwhelm for people. So often we do what is familiar versus what is best for the situation. And year after year, we've normalized these different seasons in the different parts of the year of, oh, this is stressful season, this is overwhelmed season, this is hectic season. And we just let it be the way it is because we've made sense of that season. And a lot of times, these seasons are the way they are, not just because of what's happening external to us, but because of what's happening internal as we navigate through these seasons. So instead of, okay, we're getting into busy season where it's going to be overwhelmed and I'm probably going to be overcommitted, it turns into, instead of being overwhelmed, how can I end out this year differently? It really makes you think for a moment. How can I end this different if I want it to be something other than overwhelmed? And part of what is real is checking in on, what do I want it to be if it's not overwhelmed? In the past videos I've talked about negations and saying what you mean to say versus saying it negated. And here is a great example. As opposed to, I don't want the end of the year to be overwhelming, it flips into, well, if overwhelm decreases, what would increase? Maybe peace. Okay, I want the end of the year to be peaceful. Now that you know you want the end of the year to be peaceful, it turns into another line of questioning. What can I do to make the year more peaceful? How do I need to adjust? What needs to change in order for this year to end out with the highest level of peace my years have ever ended out in? So often we forget that our mind is a muscle, and we can train muscles. They grow, they can shrink, all different types of things. But we have to remember, if I want this muscle to do something different, I must be willing to train it. And in working to live in alignment, very often we are going to have to do things that are unfamiliar and uncomfortable in order to begin retraining the muscle. Overcommitment and overwhelm for many of us, that's familiar. It may not be comfortable, but it is familiar. We know what happens. It's pretty predictable of what will happen. It's so crazy. Yesterday I came in from church and I was like, all right, I have to sit down at my computer because it's time to level set. Things are out of whack, aka out of alignment, and I know they're out of alignment because I'm scurrying. And that is a really good point of, when we're in alignment, there are certain symptoms of being in alignment. It's similar for being out of alignment. There are certain symptoms for being out of alignment. And for me, one of my symptoms from being out of alignment is I'm like a ping pong ball where it's like pew, 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 like zipping from one thing to the next thing. And I barely have time in between to think. And I am moving throughout the day, 100 miles per hour all day. When I'm in alignment, I hit these moments of flow and I am able to slow down at points of the day. Like, there may be moments where I'm going 100 miles per hour, but I'm able to drop down to 20 miles, to 50 miles, to 70 miles, depending on what is happening in that given situation. But if I'm going 100 throughout the entire day, 100 is going to be inappropriate at some points where it's just meant for me to slow down. So I had my slow down moment where I'm like, all right, Been going 100 miles per hour too long. It's out of alignment. It's causing some side effects that I'm not interested in. Let me take a beat. And something that I realized as I sat down and working with my virtual assistant, I was like, okay, what I'm noticing is that I have all these ideas. And then once I have these ideas, I'm looking to execute the ideas. And when I get into executing all the of all the ideas, I quickly realize, whoa, this has way more involved than I could have ever imagined. And then I try to keep trying to do all the things going. All right, let me do it. I don't ever take a step back to say, okay, let me get real with myself. This has a lot more going on. Instead of working on 4 projects at a time, maybe I just start with one and focus on the one project versus 50 million things at one time and speeding myself up just trying to get it all done. So often, and I'm guilty of this, especially this year. So often at the beginning of the year, we set these goals for ourselves and we're like, I'm going to do this, and this. And we don't realize that in all the things we said we're going to do, as opposed to 1 year worth of goals, there's probably a good 4+ years worth of goals. But we're trying to cram it all into the year. And then, we took a break for a couple of months, slowed down a whole lot. And now we are trying to cram it all in at the end. No, it's time to get real with oneself. One thing that I am changing for next year, coming into the new year, is I am going to say, what is the focus item for my business? What's the one thing that I want to bring across the finish line for business? And from there, I'll have all the things, all the ideas listed, but I'm telling myself, this is a start. If you finish this project, then you could go to the list and add something else on once this project is finished versus starting 4 projects and not finishing any of them. I'd rather get one across every year than to start 4 and don't get any across, because I know being in business has been really different because it's mostly me. Like, I brought people on to help along the way, but like when I take on a new project, it's not like I can really get all these other things off my plate. There's still business maintenance that needs to happen in addition to the new projects that I'm taking on. So taking on 4 projects at one time is naturally going to cause overload because I'm still doing all the same things I was doing before. And that's that level setting moment of you bit off too much at one time. And I didn't leave any space for myself for unexpected great things to pop up. Like, one of the things that popped up is I had a training contract to do that had different deliverables. Well, that took up time. And it took, so in that taking up time, there's less time to work on the business projects. So it's like level setting moments. Like, yes, I had this in mind at the beginning of the year, but with all the things that have come up, these 4 projects are not coming across the finish line. So what is the one project that is important for me to bring across the finish line this year? And as you close out, there are two months left in this year. Listen, you are not going to finish all those goals that you had on the list that are not checked off right now. That's just most likely not happening. In the midst of it getting ready to be holiday season, kids are going to be out of school, a lot of things are going to be happening in these next 2 months. So just take a beat, sit with yourself and look at, hey, how do I need to level set? What is going to be realistic over the next 2 months that I can deliver on? And when we get real with ourselves, I mean, you could see it as a failure if you want. Oh, I didn't do all the other things. Or you could see it as, I was able to get another thing across the finish line before the year was over. Sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. I think it was Jim Rohn who said it. Oftentimes, we overestimate what we could do in a year, but underestimate what we could do in a decade. We get ourselves overwhelmed throughout life, and what happens is we start giving up. Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm taking that off my plate. And we end up taking off the things that we wanted to actually do. And even though we may have to move slower at times, at least you're still in the game. We put so much on our plates and we knock ourselves out of the games we want to be in. whether that is earning income outside of your traditional 9 to 5 job by starting a consulting company or doing more hobbies or spending more time with friends and family, whatever it may be. Hey, it may start out with, I do it once a quarter intentionally. Then that quarter may switch up to, okay, I do it every month. And then you'll get to monthly, and then you'll get to weekly, and one day you might make it to daily. But we often we will diminish the small steps to make it seem like they don't count. And I love the examples of exercise. Like all of the people who start out going really hard at the beginning of the year and they last about a month and a half, maybe 2 months with exercise. And then they're done for the year. Then you have another person that's like, you know what? I want to integrate working out and body movement into my lifestyle. I'm going to just start out with once a week. Hey, if that person goes once a week to the gym for the next year, the next 2 years, they stayed in the game longer than the person that only went for 2 months every day. We have to be willing to stay in the game. And oftentimes, staying in the game means being able to move at a slower, consistent pace versus trying to hurry up, jam it in, get it all done, burn ourselves out, and we don't even get it all done. We quit before it's done. Remember, growth isn't always easy, but when we're doing it together, it becomes possible. If you found this valuable, hit subscribe, share it with someone who's on a journey too. We don't grow alone, people, we grow together. Until next time, keep showing up and keep